He's got his mojo working, ladies and gentlemen. That would be Jimmy Doane.
Well, actually, that's... What's his name?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Doane is here.
That's Jimmy Doane.
This is Jimmy Doane along with Counselor Curtis.
That's me.
And this is the Jimmy Doane Show for September 26th. Five days into autumn, and you would never know it because it's still 90 degrees beastly.
Oh, it's a million degrees outside.
Our summer is going to stretch in past.
Oh, it's crazy how hot it's been here recently.
Well, you talk about hot, of course. The news.
The scalding news.
The scalding news is unbelievable. I mean, we got a bunch.
Happy birthday, Tiffany.
Huh?
Tiffany.
Yeah, hi, Tiffany. Yeah, happy birthday. The deal is, though, new revelation this morning.
Yes, I saw that.
What was interesting was
we're
yesterday.
talking about the Kavanaugh hearing,
right.
Obviously, right?
But there's two things that are concerned that are very great. Michael Avenatti, who is obviously, I don't know what this guy is. Ambulance
former
chaser
president
type, something.
Avenatti.
He said this was yesterday. He said he's going to reveal a third woman who's ready to accuse Judge Brett Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct. Stormy, and of course he's always identified as Stormy Daniels' lawyer.
Right. Porn star's lawyer.
Porn star lawyer who appeared on CNN and MSNBC after being in court representing the porn star who allegedly had sex with President Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. Now, the third person is this girl in this statement. I say girl, woman, she's like 56 years old. Julie Swetnick, a current government employee, alleges Kavanaugh and his friend, Mark Judge, attended a party where she was drugged and gang raped by a series of boys. While she does not accuse Kavanaugh of assaulting her, she claims to have witnessed him participate in gang rapes. In his tweet that included screenshots, Avenatti asserted that Kavanaugh's nomination must stop now before we hear every blah, blah, blah. The comments, of course, on this, and Rush Limbaugh had a big deal on this today. I mean, it's scathing. The fact is that apparently, according to her testimony, she attended numerous of these parties, knowing full well what was going on, okay? Didn't take names, didn't do anything.
Well, she took some names.
Well, okay, yes, she took some names, but I mean, was she in line for this or whatever? They called it the train, where apparently the guys all line up outside.
Yeah, I heard the allegations. I mean, look, this is going to go one way or the other pretty easily, I think. Because
she's a liar. She's perjuring herself. She was under oath. She did this.
Right.
She's going to. I don't know if they're going to actually get her for perjury, but they should.
I will say if there's nobody that can come forward to corroborate what she says, and Mark Judge comes forward and says that never happened, that they'll have a strong case for perjury, and they very well may go after her. This is one of those situations where, man, you don't. I mean, it's either an amazing revelation about one of our top political people, or it's just the worst kind of political lie that you can possibly.
Well, it's interesting. I believe she's like 3 years older than he is.
Okay.
So she would have been in college going to high school parties. There's just so many things about this that have holes. Now, the other thing to dovetail on this, not to belabor this too much longer. Tomorrow, Thursday, what the other girl, Ford, is supposed to testify. Question: is she going to?
We'll see.
Well, you do understand who's been brought in to.
I heard. Yeah, I saw
this.
prosecutor.
This is the best part. Washington Republican senators have selected Arizona prosecutor Rachel Mitchell to question Judge Brett Kavanaugh and the woman who has accused Supreme Court Justice nominee of sexually assaulting her when they were teenagers. Mitchell, the Sex Crimes Bureau Chief for Maricopa County Attorney's Office in Phoenix, will query the two at Thursday's highly anticipated Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. She's a registered Republican, and she's worked for the Maricopa County's office for 26 years. I mean, this is what she does. She has questioned to find out if when rape victims come in, she's the one that says, let's find out exactly what's going on here. You're looking at me kind of funny.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like that's what she does, because she's the bureau chief and she's the prosecutor and all. However, so prosecutors, as you know, are government jobs, and the competition for those jobs is not as stringent as it is in the rest of the marketplace for attorneys.
Okay.
Often. What happens is a disproportionate number of prosecutors suck really bad.
Okay.
And there's no incentive to. I mean, there are people who want to obviously be political. You have people trying to rise up in the ranks with their convictions and stuff, but those are sort of few and far between. Most of the people in there are just in there to get a couple of years under their belt and then go out into private practice or something. She's a career prosecutor,
right,
which means she's accepted a government position as her ultimate incarnation. And man, the sex crimes, that's a hideous docket to be on. I mean, all of you, what an awful job assignment. And so to me, none of that speaks to her competence at all.
It may not, but
I would get a defense attorney in there. That's who I would do, because almost any defense attorney knows how the hell to cross-examine somebody, right, and pin somebody down.
That's a good thought. The thing about it is what they've done here, and of course you're right. If she blows it, that's going to hurt. But I can't believe that she's not going to have a little prep. Number one, but
I think of Trey Gowdy, who went after Hillary Clinton for 11 hours and asked question after question that he obviously didn't know the answer to, and nice open-ended questions that she could just sort of veer around, and wasn't able to pin her down in 11 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on, man. That was just a display of incompetence.
Okay, this may be, however, the facts are, she just brings out the facts that there's no corroborating evidence for this, for what Ford has done. Yeah, she doesn't know where it was, when it was, who, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. That's number one. But and of course, when she interviews Kavanaugh, he's going to stoutly deny it 100%. Now, the thing about this is, here's the whammy. It's a girl, and it's not the old men,
the old white men,
the old white men. Gosh, so the opposition, almost no matter what comes out of this, even if she does a sloppy job, which I can't believe it's going to be that bad, even if she does a fairly sloppy job and asks a couple of questions, stuff like, where was it, when was it exactly, who else, name names, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The point is, it's a girl, a woman asking another woman, so the senators are off the hook.
Yeah, the dynamic won't be nearly as
No, it won't be at all. I mean, what are the Democrats going to come out and say? She's a Republican. What do you expect? Well, yeah, but I mean, this is what she does, sex crimes, blah, blah, blah.
It's an adversarial, we have an adversarial legal system.
Well, I think that, and the other thing that's nice about this is no grandstanding.
Right.
They don't get to ask any questions.
Right.
It should be over in no time. I mean, really, and they should be able to start to vote on this thing on Friday.
I agree.
I mean, so maybe she blows off 2 or 3 hours,
right?
And then how many hours can she blow off on Kavanaugh? I mean, he's going to stoutly deny 100%. I never did anything like that, 100% guarantee. And then what else can she ask him?
Well, I agree. It's going to be shorter than it obviously would if you let the senators do it, because if the senators are going to do it, it's going to be. First, let me tell you.
Right. Oh, yeah.
When I was a little boy, deciding to run for president, and I'll get to my question in just a moment. Yeah. But and if she does a very thorough job, it shouldn't take more than a couple of hours
tops.
Well, I've done a bunch of thousands of depositions.
Okay.
And cross-examine on little tiny things, and you always schedule deposition for 2 hours when there's something that could be said.
Okay.
You schedule it for an hour if the person's going to come in and say, I didn't see nothing. I saw zero ever. That's Judge's. You schedule
Right.
his for an hour. Okay. And that's assuming he says, I saw nothing. Because what it is there's a bunch of questions that are background questions, which is, hey, what's your name? Mark Judge. Hey, you know this guy Kavanaugh? Yeah, I know Kavanaugh. You know,
Okay.
wait, how'd you meet him? I met him when we were 10, you know, we did the thing, you know, or whatever. Yeah, did you ever go to any parties, whatever? Yeah, well, yeah. Well, tell me about your drinking history and your family. You know, I mean, they could do crazy shit if she wants to. I don't know if it's going to be behind closed doors.
That's the other thing. We don't know. We don't have a clue yet. I don't know when. I think it's supposed to start at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine that they would.
But what I find fascinating, of course, is her demand, which one of her major demands that everybody just is hooting and hollering over, was she wanted him to go first.
Yeah, you were saying that.
I mean, how do you can't prove a negative. I mean, so.
Well, right. It's
just the most insane thing.
But as I said, we expect her to ask for the moon and.
Well, this is so. Anyway, here's one of the comments that I read about this Swetnick, Julie Swetnick. This woman needs to be institutionalized. Who stands by to watch women be raped? Who goes back to watch 10 times? Who goes back to be raped? She tries to make the alleged incident sound horrific while at the same time attempting to bolster her credibility by claiming to have been there 10 times. Anyone that advises this story should be institutionalized.
Well, it's a very good point. I can tell you that I went to a lot of parties.
I confess.
Yeah, and I can tell you that if the girls know that there's going to be a jerky guy at the party, they're not going to go. They're not. If you knew that there was going to be a serial rapist at the party, and that's what she's alleging. I mean, there's no black and white here.
Yeah.
This is either he's a virgin or a serial rapist at this point.
Yeah.
As far as in her
Well,
eyes.
she says she never actually saw him.
No, no.
Sweet, no, that's what she said. This Swetnick said, while she does not accuse Kavanaugh of assaulting her, she claims she witnessed him participate.
Yeah.
So she looked over there and saw him.
She said she saw him in the line.
Right.
Okay, but then she also said at one point she was a victim with him and Judge. In one of the later paragraphs, I thought she said they did it to me. I went back and I was the train girl or whatever.
And what were you doing standing in line?
Well, that's what she. This is what is peculiar. Look, I knew all the bad kids, and there's no way that you could have a situation like that repeat itself 10 times over again.
It's not only that.
I mean,
you see this quote line or whatever, a couple of guys kind of milling around, standing up. Well, this girl in the back there would be screaming her head off, and I would think that the next person in there, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, look, this is the late 70s or the early 80s or something like this, perhaps. And now this is she says in high school still. So
this Swetnick girl was in college.
In college, okay. So okay, and the guy was in a fraternity. So okay,
well, he was in high school at the time.
Oh, okay.
There's a 3-year difference.
Right. Well, okay. So you imagine. You remember the movie Animal House?
Yeah.
Okay. So remember the of all the bad stuff that happened in the Animal House, I don't think there was any raping.
No.
I mean, there was.
It was PG for God's sakes,
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, in terms of the standards of the time.
Yeah.
It seems way over the top. What she's describing sounds like Charles Manson's fraternity,
right?
As opposed to what I can believe all of the allegations except for the raping. That is to say, I can see that there's kids with alcohol hitting on girls, trying to pick up the girls, all that kind of stuff going on. But it's hard to imagine that they would have what she describes basically as regular rape parties.
Yeah, I mean, and she's going to them,
and right, and she keeps going to him, and nobody else has reported it to this point. Like I said, she named several names, Mark Judge being one of them. Look, Mark Judge has got to come say something at this point. I think it's pretty clear. And that's...
They're going to have to subpoena him.
Well, he would be the person that I would subpoena if I were Grassley. He's been named as a witness by, so far, every accuser, right? Or
I don't know, maybe.
What's the other one? Certainly the first and the third. Who's the second? The second one is...
Rachel somebody.
And what was her allegation is...
This was Yale. She was the one in Yale. So that wasn't...
She said he exposed himself to her.
But in Yale. But that was not Judge.
No, that's what I was saying. But he was there. Judge was there for the first and third.
Right. Accusers, right.
You're right. So, I mean, that's 2 out of 3. You got a live witness named by the alleged victims. So, that's incredibly good information for 35 years later. So...
I just think the whole thing just is...
Well, it still stinks to high heaven in terms of the timing and what has been alleged relative to what could have been alleged. For example, there are, people have been talking about this story, and one of the things that you see in actual accounts versus fake allegations, which I've seen a lot of both, is in actual accounts you see a lot of detail. A lot of interesting detail. And we've got none of that from these particular witness victims. So
if that wouldn't have been seared into your memory.
Well, something about it. Something like, I remember the clock on the wall, that's all I was looking at the time, or the shape of his thing, or what I had a tattoo on his butt, or there's some kind of details which corroborate and solidify.
Well, unless of course the person was so traumatized that they blocked it out. Now, and of course that brings up another thing. It's blocked out.
Well, it was.
But it reminds me a little bit of years ago. There was the thing in that town where 1,000 teachers or whatever, not 1,000, but multiple people in the town were accused of child abuse, and they arrested a whole bunch of them. And it was obviously all not a scam, but it was one of these things where and the way they did it was the psychologist would get the little girl in there and have the doll and point to this.
So where did they touch you?
Yeah.
And who on this list was it that touched you?
Right. And then it was obvious. What they finally figured out it was obvious from the start actually that this was one of those things where the psychologists, so to speak, air quotes, were encouraging these people to give answers. And of course, as you know,
I remember that was Salem.
Was it?
There was.
But anyway, the point was that if you think for 2 seconds that a 5, 6, 7, or 8-year-old little girl doesn't want to please the questioner, you're crazy.
I have literally heard adults say that children don't lie. So
they might
only adults lie apparently.
Yeah.
Again, look, we're going to find out. This is all going to come out in the wash, and if the Republicans are not the wishiest group possible, it'll come out in the wash like this week.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, I say they've done one thing, and that is, even if she's not that great a interrogator person, but at least they've got themselves off the hook
in terms of the visuals. Yeah, that was a good move. Well, so we'll see.
Okay. Next item.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. This has to do with the ongoing Florence is still, after a week or so, Florence is still flooding. There's more stuff coming down. But in North Carolina, a woman faces criminal charges after taking in animals during Hurricane Florence. She has been charged with practicing veterinary medicine without a license while the pets were in her care. Tammy Hedges, who runs Crazy Claws and Paws, a Goldsboro, North Carolina animal rescue group, took 27 cats and dogs belonging to residents who were fleeing the storm. The goal was to make sure they weren't drowning. According to a Facebook post from the Wayne County government, Wayne County Animal Services visited the site on September 17th at the request of the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture. Wayne County Animal Services made contact with her upon entering the facility. They developed serious concerns regarding a practice of veterinary medicine without a license and the presence of controlled substances. Of course, she voluntarily surrendered the animals to Wayne County Animal Services, which is like when you surrender your children to the child safety people.
Yeah.
Hedges was later charged with 12 counts of misdemeanor practicing or attempting veterinary medicine without a license, and 1 count of solicitation of a Schedule IV controlled substance. She was arrested and released on $10,000 bond, unsecured bond, it says right here, whatever. So, but can you, I mean, this is what,
wow.
You sit there, she's rescued the things we love the most, practically. These animals are unconditional love animals, right? And their owners can come back and reclaim them and everything. And what she did was, apparently she'd gotten a hold of some doggy Valium or something, which is a Schedule IV thing, and in order to calm the dogs down, and cats or whatever it was. That was practicing veterinary medicine without a license. Have to have a license to rescue animals. This shows the, to what lengths in a disaster, an unmitigated, horrible flood disaster, homes destroyed, everything you can imagine, horrible, horrible things, and these people have nothing better to do than arrest this and charge her and release her on $10,000 bond. And so she's obviously going to have to come back to court to see this stuff. It's just, of course, we talked about this before. Licensing is a scam anyway, and this is the ridiculous lengths that licensing goes to.
I wonder how much the investigator gets paid in that.
They're just doing their job.
I know.
That's the thing. I did my job today, but I mean, you didn't have anything better to do. I mean, oh my God. So I just, this is just your government overreach in action.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of laws, here in Florida, so this is kind of interesting. Most laws crafted during the legislative session, which ended some time ago, including the state's almost $89 billion budget, hit the books on July 1st. That's when a lot of the laws take effect.
Okay.
I think the legislative session is like 2 months. It's like March and April or something like that. It used to be 1 month in Tallahassee when there was no air conditioning, and they didn't pass many laws back in those days. But now they got a brandy new place up there and everything. So, but others had later. Some other things have other later effective dates. Some laws are not going to take effect till January 1st and so forth. But of the laws passed, this is one of the things I've always said. If you name a law after a child or an animal, this is an emotional law. So the new law, named Ponce's Law, after the puppy, will allow judges to bar people convicted of animal cruelty from owning pets. It also increases the severity ranking of animal abuse-related crimes, make it more likely that offenders will go to jail upon conviction. So if you abuse your cat or dog or whatever, you go to jail.
Fish.
So anyway, and then another law allows businesses such as bars to receive up to 10 cases of branded glassware, 24 glasses per container a year, from brewers or importers. And what this is basically, I don't know why they had to pass a law for this. I guess it had been illegal previously, but somebody would come in from the brewing company, local brewing company, they'd print up their own glasses and say, here, they're free, you just have to serve the beer in these glasses. Well, now what they did, this legislature decided to say, okay, each brewery can do 240 of these glasses a year, that's all. And of course, they call it the beer glass bill, and maintains the change would allow small businesses to save a big cost on glassware. But a number of craft brewers opposed the measure. Again, this is the nun-whippers, arguing it would allow a small number of brewers who could afford the cost to flood the market with company-branded glassware. So, you can't say...
So what?
Yeah, well, you're right, exactly. So what? I mean, this is,
flood the market, the free giveaway market?
Yeah, right, the free giveaway. I mean, it's insanity. I was looking at this.
Hey, they're giving away their stuff better than we are.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, in a lot of places.
Get on the giving, man.
Let me tell you, what happens is, as you may or may not know this, but there are places where the companies actually pay to have their cereal or whatever it is at eye level.
Oh yeah, sure.
I mean, so in other words, what the glass maker could do is, as the well-heeled one could say, we're not only going to give you these glasses,
right,
we're going to give them to you, and we're going to pay you $1 a glass.
Yeah.
For every one you take. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the market would figure out.
Yeah.
That's the market system, and yet our legislature has to step in on this. Just they can't
saving us.
They're saving us. They're saving somebody. I mean, and actually, it's funny because the people that are opposed to it are a number of craft brewers, which of course there are lots of them around here in Gainesville. Okay, moving on. The U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, Mr. Superhawk, said Monday that Russian plans to supply Syria with an S-300 missile system would be a, quote, significant escalation by Moscow, and he hopes it will reconsider. Now, this is one of those things where these are surface-to-air missiles that they're giving to, they're supplying to Syria.
To Bashar.
That's right. And so airplanes now flying, warplanes flying over Syria are going to be shot down, I guess, by these Russian missiles, which, who knows what planes. What happened was there was a Russian plane that was shot down by accident, and they all blamed Israel for it, even though Israel wasn't the one that shot it down. There was some kind of duplicity in there. Russia said Monday it will supply surface-to-air missile systems to Syria in 2 weeks. And of course the Israelis were upset about this because they're the ones that might want to jump in there for some reason, I guess, and, fly over Syria, who knows what. And something we hope, if the press reports are accurate, he would, we were hoping that the Russians would reconsider. There shouldn't be any misunderstanding here. The party responsible for the attacks in Syria and Lebanon, and really the party responsible for the shooting down of the Russian plane, is Iran. That's what Bolton said. Russia is fighting in Syria in support of the government. Bolton warned that if the Syrian government used chemical weapons, they brought the chemical weapons, if they used chemical weapons again, the U.S. response would be significant. So here we are looking for a false flag. You can just see it now. Somebody boils, their steam comes out of somebody's stove, and chemical weapons. They're setting it up so they can run in there.
I don't know. I mean, Trump hasn't really been a hawk to date.
No, he hasn't. No. Okay. Next, I look at this and I just the main thing was that it looks to me like somebody is setting up for a false flag, and you wouldn't put it past Bolton to do this because we've done it before. Send him up to the UN and do the Colin Powell thing. I know there's WMDs and whatever.
Yeah,
yellow cake.
I don't trust Bolton either. I don't know what it is about him.
Okay, locally here, domestically, farmers, this is really great. Farmers across the United States will soon be receiving government checks, taxpayer money, of course, as part of a $1 billion bailout to buoy growers who are experiencing financial strain from President Donald Trump's trade disputes with China. But but people are worried that even those payments won't be even nearly enough to offset the lack of people. China has, of course, put a 25% tariff on soybeans or some of the stuff that we normally send to China. So our exports are down, and so they've decided we're going to bolster. So the taxpayer now is going to pay the farmers to bring their costs supposedly up. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to be anywhere near enough. There's two things to consider here. One, they said it's pretty obvious that the rural agricultural communities helped elect this administration, but the way things are going, I believe farmers are going to take a second look, to vote with their checkbook when the time comes. And so if you don't give us money, to make out that, well, it turns out that I haven't gone through the actual numbers here, but like on corn, they're claiming to have a loss of 44 cents a bushel, and this bill will provide them with 1 penny, and so forth, and it goes on and on like that.
Yeah.
It's not making up for a lot of it. The Trump administration is providing up to $12 billion in emergency relief funds for American farmers, with roughly $6 billion in an initial round. The three-pronged plan includes $4.7 billion payments to corn, cotton, soybean, dairy, pork, and sorghum farmers. The rest is for developing new foreign markets for American-grown commodities. And I don't understand that. I mean, that's so they're going to spend this money, over $1 billion, to develop foreign. What are you going to go over there and bribe?
Look, all of these payments to these farmers is just damage control.
I know that. And the other thing that is amazing, of course, they're talking about the rural people having supported Trump and so forth, and now maybe they won't. Well, you got to realize that, I don't know what it is, but 2.3% of the population are farmers. I mean, or not even that many, I don't think. And of course, a lot of them are not, it's the big people, the big corn and soybean people that are, but I mean, how about local, we got 100 local farmers around here that do go to the farmer's market. For God, they're not affected by any of this stuff.
Well, look, yeah, well, exactly. And that's why these are going to be targeted payments to his buddy farmers, or the people who supported him in big ways and who do big things around the country.
Well,
it's a Band-Aid fix. And the part about developing foreign markets, look, what a bunch of bullshit, because you can't just develop a foreign market.
No.
And I mean, it just doesn't work that way. If you could just do that, it would be like a perpetual motion situation.
Yeah.
So either a market is out there or it's not, and you take advantage of it when it is.
Right.
So and
one of the ways you take advantage of it is your stuff is cost less for openers.
Right, and so you can't, when they talk about developing or opening foreign markets, what they're talking about is some sort of limited, temporary subsidy, like if you sell to X country or something.
Right.
Okay, that's going to work for as long as that subsidy is in place, and that's it, not a day longer.
They have for years, years and years ago, even during the Cold War, they subsidized the wheat farmers that were sending wheat to Russia.
Right.
I mean,
that's exactly the kind of effort that will be.
Right.
So that's all a bunch of bullshit. Look,
we're paying to feed the Russians.
Yeah. Well, and look, we're still, the jury's still out on the Trump trade war situation.
Right.
Mrs. Jimmy thinks he's going to use the trade wars just perfectly to convince everybody else to drop all their trade barriers, and then he's going to drop ours in kind, and we're all going to have free trade everywhere. That's, of course, the libertarian dream ideal scenario, I think, from my perspective it is anyway. And of course, a worse situation is he leaves the tariffs in place and distorts markets all over the place, causes unemployment in various places, causes the reduction in overall wealth generation because of the reduction in the trading circle. And the worst case scenario is one or more countries experience some kind of severe economic crisis or collapse due to this stuff.
Right, exactly.
And decide to engage in some extra military activity in order to make up for their economic losses on one front or another.
They're going to blame somebody else for their... They always do that.
It's easy to do, man. Look, humans love to have causation. They love to place blame, and they love to place it on the other guy. And if they experience a hard enough hardship, they may be willing to, or easily convinced to pick up some weapons and
right, exactly. So
we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. So I thought this. The other thing they're going to do is this purchasing. I'm not sure what this is all about. They're going to use a bunch of this money to purchase more than 24 select products, including certain fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, meat, and dairy. So I guess that's from us. The nut, meat, and dairy people are going to get. We've had.
We'll buy them anyway.
You'll buy them anyway, right? Yeah. Just the farm bill has been around, since like 1914 or something, and has never gone away.
Well, look, monetary policy in general has just been lauded where it should have been destroyed. 70, 80 years now, we're getting into this with this just ridiculous concept that the government can act with reaction, and on any, nobody's going to react to, no, I'm going to take that into account, and then also that its temporary actions are somehow going to be deemed or interpreted as permanent by the other people involved. So, on the one hand they're going to act, and on the other hand they're not going to act.
Well, the other thing is that they're so smart that they can figure out what 7.5 billion people on this planet are going to do from minute to minute. and set up these annual regulations to funnel that just exactly the right way, fine-tuned.
Right. Well, the thing is, they take a snapshot and then they do it, and of course, by the time the policy is in place, everything's changed already.
By the time the snapshot is developed, I mean, by the time it appears on your little window on your thing, it's
like
gone.
Heisenberg uncertainty. You know,
totally.
It's gone as soon as you measure it.
Just exactly. All right. The next thing I have here is air travelers rejoice. The government once again has decided to get into things.
Oh my God! I was just gonna say the only thing that can make me rejoice is if I heard the FAA has been abolished,
or it's been sold off or something.
Right.
After 3 years of toil, Congress has produced a massive Federal Aviation Administration authorization bill, a 1,200-page doorstopper that, at least on a few pages, addresses passengers' biggest pet peeves: tight coach seating, annoying airline fees, and transparency in pricing. Consumers won't get everything they want, but neither will the airlines. So this is one of those things where it's lose-lose, and they're going to try and step in, and I guess they're going to try and figure out that you must now have exactly 34.5 inches or whatever it is this way, and it's like you say. What has happened in the past is the airlines had to pass a thing that says if you weigh over 300 pounds, they're going to charge you extra. Because you're going to take up 2 seats essentially, or something like that. I mean, on and on, and a lot of this stuff is, of course, is market related. The fact that they started charging you for checking your bags, and you see different airlines do different things. And I know there are people that will fly Southwest or Spirit or whatever instead of these other ones, and then you have the occasional horrible experiences, and a lot of that is because of the airlines were deregulated under Carter. And now it's been a little bit of chaos, but the airlines are still kind of run by the FAA and the Transportation Department, and so if they're going to come in here and meddle with this again, you can expect no good to come out of this.
I wasn't around in the Carter years, obviously, in terms of paying attention to the deregulation situation.
Actually, you were.
Well, I mean, I know I was there.
No, but in fact, you were a beneficiary of before the deregulation.
Okay.
We went. I took you and your brother out skiing.
Yeah.
In the 70s, before the deregulation. And you remember how we used to upgrade our seats?
Yeah.
I mean, what we would do was, because you had a deal where if you were supposed to check in 30 minutes ahead of time, and the fares were fairly well fixed back then. You didn't have all this online. There was no online.
Right.
So you bought the ticket, and of course, I guess they were probably more expensive. I had money back then, but they were more expensive. But what we would do, this was so great. We had so much fun. We would come up to the line and be ready to check in to fly out to skiing in Colorado, and we would actually let people go in front of us. And they would be looking at there saying, "What's this guy doing? He's you don't want to go now? No, you just go right ahead and check." And then 29 and a half minutes before the doors were closed, we would go up there and they'd say, "We're booked. We're going to have to bump you to first class." And so we would fly out, because that was the way it was working.
That was a good trick, but I don't know how that's related to the regulation situation.
Well, what happened is you don't do that anymore. I mean, nowadays, the fact is that it was regulated then, and you could, if you had enough money, like as we had a few extra bucks, and so it was regulated, but you could game the system because the regulations were fairly tight on a couple of things like that. And there weren't airlines going out of business or anything like that. Once the deregulation showed up, Eastern, Pan Am, all those people were put out. Legacy airlines were put out of business by the lower and lower prices. And in order to keep the prices low, in order to compete for the traveler, for the regular Joe Schmo traveler, they had to lower the prices. The only way they could do it, when gasoline prices started to go up, the only way they could do it is to make the seats smaller, pack more people into the plane, and charge more stuff. And that's kind of what's happened. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, what in the market would it take to have the ability to of course, right now, if you want to fly business class or first class, your company has to pay for it because it's so much more expensive. Nobody except rich people actually do that kind of stuff for openers. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we could go back to the days when we were flying, where the regular coach seats were plenty okay?
Yeah, again, it's impossible for me to perceive of all of the effects of that regulation or that the FAA has on the airlines right now. It seems to me to be a stifled economic area. That is to say, when I look at the airlines, it reminds me of like sort of the DMV or another public, like the public library or something. It seems to be inefficiently run. There seem to be obvious solutions that are not put into effect on regular basis.
Well, I'll name a couple of them for you. First of all, the air traffic control system is horribly out of date. I mean, they have not. It took them forever to institute GPSs, for instance. I mean, you know, when GPSs were ubiquitous, you weren't allowed to use a lot of that stuff. Number two, that would be fascinating. They do not. It's much like they have that law on the shipping, where I forget Logan's Law or whatever it is, where the shipping has to go from American port to American port, which is why Guam and Hawaii and Puerto Rico are so expensive. We have the same kind of thing. We don't allow foreign airlines to come in and compete with American airlines. I mean, if you can fly, you can have BOAC go to New York, but BOAC can't just pick up then and go to Cleveland or any place else. That's it. And so
un-American.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they do not allow foreign airlines to compete on American soil, or on shipping ports. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine the variety that would happen on something like that. I mean, these people could.
Planes have been around for obviously decades and almost a century or a little more in terms of commercial travel, and yet you still don't have, for example, even variation in seat size except among the classes.
Right.
Like why wouldn't they have like sort of some bigger seats maybe in the back and some smaller seats?
Well, they do. Now actually, they do charge extra if you want an aisle seat or if you're in an exit seat, which has a little more leg room.
Right. But for example, I would think that they could anticipate a certain number of children, for example, on flights. So you could have a certain number of small seats that are almost like child seats. And then that would give you room to have a slightly bigger seat for maybe some bigger people. I mean, what I'm suggesting is that there doesn't seem like there's a lot of market variation. It seems like everybody is uniform, and that feels like a regulation to me.
It is, and the other thing that happens on this, you hear these stories about when people travel with their children, and they've co-opted the seats in a way. Even though you reserve seats with your kids, mm-hmm. they can move you around anyway. And so you're not sitting with your children. You say, what are you talking about? Kid's 5 years old, 7, 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I wanted to sit with him or her or whatever.
Right.
They do that. The fact is that there are still a lot of regulations that people don't understand how onerous they are. But the main thing is they've chipped away at the competition. Now, as far as you're concerned, when you talk about the small seats or whatever it is and the larger, the problem has to do with that. You have to then get the right mix of people. Right. You have to figure that there are going to be 10 children or 20 children or whatever on each flight. But what if they're not? Then that seat doesn't go used or whatever
right.
it is. The other thing that happens, which I've been privy to it, and of course we've seen this, they've had rules against bumping people. And they start to offer money now. I can tell you from personal experience, usually when I fly, I sit right up there where they're getting ready to offer you the extras, money and the tickets.
So you can jump right up.
Jump right up there, and I'll take it. I mean, I love
that voucher.
Yeah, no, I mean, you get.
Where's my hotel?
That's right. I get my ride, my meal, everything.
Right.
No, I mean, I love doing that. And of course, sometimes you have to. This is one. Just as a slight aside, sometimes you have to kind of wait. Because they need to bump 4 people. So.
Right.
And so you sit there and you're waiting, and
first person gets the
$400.
Right.
No takers. $500. You're looking around, and so you got to figure out at what point are you going to jump in there, and they have just raised that, by the way, to like $2,500 or $3,000 or something. Yeah, before it was a maximum of $300 or $400, and then you couldn't do any more. Then I don't know what you did. And I have no idea. I forget. Drag them off.
Yeah, I know. Start throwing people off.
Anyway, so we'll see what happens. But there's still way too many. Not to mention that the Homeland Security people are out of control, and that should.
Yeah, we want to get.
You're not even going to get to that. Okay. Next item. Let's see what we got here. Yeah. The U.S. State Department has approved the sale to Taiwan of spare parts for F-16 fighter planes and other military aircraft worth $330 million, prompting China to warn Tuesday that a move jeopardized Sino-U.S. cooperation. So this is interesting. The self-ruled Taiwan, but of course China considers it part of China. And so here we are selling U.S. airplanes, fighter airplanes, spare parts and everything, to little old Taiwan. I mean, do you think the Chinese are upset about that? I mean, I guess.
Heck yeah, but too bad. I mean, Taiwan is there are buds more than China by a million miles.
Well, sort of. I'm not sure, because China, you know, we get a lot of cheap stuff from China. We do from Taiwan, but Taiwan is, you know, this big.
Well, I realize that, but I mean, from a political standpoint, the Taiwanese are the Chinese nationals from the days of past.
Yeah,
so
right.
They're sort of
Chiang Kai-shek or whatever.
Yeah, and they're not the communists.
Well, of course, what we've said is this proposed sale will contribute. This is sort of a joke. The proposed sale will contribute to the foreign policy and national security of the United States by helping to improve the security and defensive capability of the recipient. I mean, you know, I don't care who you are, but if China really wanted to take over Taiwan, I mean, it'd be like North Korea. It's just crazy. So the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, whoever, says that U.S. arms sales to Taiwan were a serious breach of international law and harm Chinese sovereignty and security interests. So this is what all about our security, their security. Well, sure. China strongly opposes the planned arms sales, has already lodged stern representations, whatever that is, with the United States. So this is, they have really wagged that finger.
The heck out of the finger.
That's it. So,
well, that's what you do, and you got to figure the countries you're going to jealously guard their fiefdoms.
Well, I mean, but the fact is that China's sitting right there. I mean, for them, they could, rowboat over to Taiwan just about. I mean,
yeah, you kind of have to do this. I mean, whatever. We'll see. There's a school of thought that says that China is going to experience some major economic tumult, and that their only way out of it will be to expand geographically.
Really?
Yes. I read an article which claimed that mathematically their only way out of it is to grow geographically.
I find that hard to believe.
I do too. I'm skeptical of it. I liked the theory when I read it. I remember thinking that's a pretty strong theory, but I'll have to dig it up again and check back over it.
Yeah, China, even though it's got billions of people, whatever it is, it's still a pretty good sized place. I mean, it's they got farmland.
Well, it had to do with. Again, I'll have to go back and look. I know they got everything. They got everything they need, and they got 1 billion people or more, and that's enough workers for as long as you need workers for whatever you need them for, and so they can cover all their needs as far as I'm concerned.
No, they've been dragging their poor people out of poverty at a record rate.
Sure.
Of course, and that's why the cities over there are typically 8-10 million people, 20 million for some of these cities. I mean, it's unbelievable. No traffic jams and everything, and pollution. Okay, let me just see here if I got something else that was. This is one thing. In an interview, President Juan Orlando Hernandez expressed regret that prior U.S. commitments to step up investment in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador has been scaled back. One of the things that the Trump administration just has cut the money that they had planned on spending down there. They were going to do two things. The bulk of the migrants stopped trying to cross the border are now from those three violent, impoverished Central American nations. Since Trump became president, Hernandez said the United States has shown great willingness to work on combating street gangs known as maras, and have menaced Central America, but less ready to support the region financially. So, it's interesting. If you're not going to give us, the government, money, then, we're upset. If you actually go in and take some action against the gangs themselves, not good enough. We want the money.
Sure.
And so what I thought this was kind of interesting, under a scheme to strengthen Central America, launched in 2014, known as the Plan for the Alliance for Prosperity in the Northern Triangle. The United States pledged to put $1 per something or another, and the commitment has not been realized, says the president of Honduras. That will obviously have repercussions, he told Reuters, because the whole idea of the Alliance for Prosperity was to attack the migration problem at the root. But I mean, the Alliance for Prosperity, governments doing, I mean, what? Government, it's as if governments can create prosperity. I mean, they have to take away prosperity in order to create it.
Look, this is again another reverberation of the Keynesian monetary policy.
Yeah. Their
concept is, we're going to go in there, we're going to make an investment in this area, and then we're going to reap the rewards. And like you said, they just don't understand the market like that. You just can't create a market, and it's.
And what are the rewards?
Well, look,
the rewards typically, or in other words, the investment provides
monetary reward.
Monetary, right? But around here and everything, they say, well, it's more beautiful than it used to be. That's the reward.
Well, look, that's just because, from an ego standpoint, they don't want to admit that they failed.
Right.
They blew it completely.
That's right.
And look, as you well know, it is extremely hard to start a business and maintain a business. Just a grassroots business where you just organically generate, or not generate, but you locate a desire, a need, a demand, and then you fulfill that demand, and then sustain that fulfilling of the demand
at a profit.
And grow it. That entire process, it's a very difficult puzzle. A lot of humans never figure out that puzzle. It's very tough, and yet, if you think about it at its core, at some level, what the entrepreneur is doing is they're taking some capital, they're investing it, and they're producing more capital.
And of course, there's a risk involved.
There's a total risk involved, and a lot of times it's failure.
It fails.
Okay, what we've seen though is everybody wants to be that person. It sounds wonderful, right? That's awesome. I mean, it's an awesome thing. You're literally creating wealth out of thin air. Well, government is like the easy way. It's like, we don't have to actually do any of that work stuff. All you do is you just vote to get the money, and then you just do the quote unquote good thing.
Solyndra.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you just and that's even that was even an effort at a business.
Right.
This is I'm talking about just straight up, municipal improvement. Like you said, we'll just clean this area up. We'll just have some,
and everybody will be happy, and that's the reward.
That's it. That's the whole reward. We took your money and we made it brighter and better. And hey, just because we happen to make some friends in your government along the way.
Yeah.
So that's good for us then.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about. Obviously,
I get votes.
Right. Keeping their people in those places, and so that they have some sort of power and connection and control, should we need it.
Yeah. All right. Let me just see here. The other thing is here locally in Florida. Should students get credit for work not handed in? And what this was, it was on Facebook, and this teacher had written a note, I guess it maybe to all the students, and passed it out that said, basically, I've been fired because I couldn't. I'm very sorry. I love you all. Blah blah blah. But I'm gonna. Now she was on probation. She just started. Mm-hmm. So but she went against the rules. One Florida teacher said no and took a stand. Now she's been fired for the move. Motivation, inspiration. That's what Diana Tirado strives to provide her students as a longtime teacher, but apparently not long-time worship. Apparently she had transferred into there. She thought the same when she started teaching 8th grade history at Westgate in Port St. Lucie last month. And then she assigned an Explorer notebook project that many students didn't turn in. It was at this point that she found out about what the school says about the school's no-zero policy reflected in the student and parent handbook. Now what this means is, apparently, if somebody does nothing, you can't give them a nothing. That's, you have to give them at least a 50 for trying, I guess.
Right.
And so what if they don't turn it in? They say, we'll give him a 50. Oh, no, we don't, said Tirado. Tirado was terminated September 14th, but there's no clause mentioned in the letter from the principal since she was still on probationary period. So when you're on probation, you can just be fired of cause. And for cause. And,
for no cause, you mean?
Yeah, well, whatever, yeah, for no cause, right. Okay, so that's your education system at work.
Yeah.
Here is she trying to do the good thing, trying to instill a little responsibility in the 8th graders now. History,
right.
You know, this is not, I don't know, shop or anything. I mean, this is, I don't know what they're talking about here.
How can you not how can a bunch of kids not turn it in? I mean, talk about lack of participation.
Yeah, I mean, and they still get a 50 or whatever it is.
They're supposed to get a 50, yeah.
Yeah, for not turning, for just walking away.
Well,
I mean,
I'll tell you, so in the last weekend, I saw the latest Muppet movie, which came out like 10 years ago, I think, or, you know, thereabouts, somewhere along the, and I have to say, you know, we love the Muppets, I love the Muppets, always typically have good messages and everything. So towards the end of the movie, there's a big song and dance number about how the Muppets' effort to do what they were trying to do the whole movie long, which is save their theater, is going to fail. But yet it's okay because they tried.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not okay. You can't. You don't have a big song and dance number celebrating
failure.
Yeah. No, it's just no. You can't accept that as part of the plan. That it goes against the whole port. In order to try really, really well enough to call it a try effort, you actually have to fail at the thing. Like, in other words, you have to try to the point of where you lose and it's bad and it sucks. If you just try to a point of elation or something, like you try and then you're just happy because you tried. You took the first step and that's good enough. No, it's not. You know, you have to keep going, you know.
Well, you had an experience in failure.
Well, that's but you didn't. If all you have to do is try, that is, trying isn't complete until the failure part or the success part.
Right.
It doesn't get its own accommodation.
Its own success.
Right. It doesn't have its own
success for failure.
Yeah.
I had a success in failing.
That's what I'm getting at. No, it does. It's like a vector to a point, and the point is either failure or success. But you don't stop along halfway and go, I made it to try. You know.
Well, it's interesting as you mentioned because I've always said.
I know you've done the Yoda thing. You know.
Well, that's right. That's one, and the other one I've said is that hope is not a business plan.
Right.
So we're going to try and do this. We hope this is going to. No, you don't understand. That's not. You have to expect that such and such is going to happen.
Right.
It's just so I've always said. Okay. Also, it's unfortunate, I guess, which I find interesting. Bill Cosby's star will not be removed from the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Well, I don't think it should be.
No, I hear, but I just, you know, when you see people going out there,
it's not like he's not going to pay. The guy's going.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that.
Right.
So, you know, they did take away some of his temple stuff.
Oh, he got all of his honorary degrees revoked and all kinds of stuff and sponsorships, and he was on the board of directors of Temple and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
All that's gone. And I'm sure he'll be sued repeatedly by other women trying to get some cash. And
from jail?
Why not? Yeah. Why not sue the crap out of him?
He's probably got residuals.
Oh, he's got tons of stuff. You know, one college gave back his endowment, $20 million. Here you go.
Okay.
So he's got some cash, but he's going to pay. But you don't need to. That would be like destroying all the Cosby Show episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, don't.
No, you're right.
It's let us have. The guy gave us something.
Yeah,
and so enjoy that.
Before that? Wasn't he in some spy thing before that?
He was in so many things. Like I said, and there's hours and hours.
Was it I Spy?
I don't remember that one.
Okay.
But hours and hours of entertainment from the guy.
Okay. The last item I have is Michelle's book tour.
Okay, yes.
Michelle's book tour, I mean, this is unbelievable. She's apparently written a book. I don't know what it is, you know. I didn't even look, but she's on tour. And in Chicago, she's going to some stadium or some place to have her, and she's going to give a talk, and then she's going to have a book signing. The tickets to get into this thing start at $30 and go to $3,000.
Woohoo!
If you want a VIP seat, get a selfie with Michelle, $3,000.
Hey, why not?
I guess. I mean, it's
sell it up, man. If you can sell those tickets, sell them. At least she's actually selling them for her entertainment value versus like Hillary going to do a speech for $250,000 or something.
Yeah.
Like, that was a quid pro quo.
Right.
I mean, there's no way they were like, she's so entertaining. I mean, that's impossible. But I'll bet you the people who pay the $3,000 for the Michelle thing, they just want to hear her talk.
I guess
they'll be all elated. They'll get to tell their friends and.
Well, so I said the 3,000. They're going to get a selfie, I guess, or something.
Sure.
But we have along that same line. We've got a guy coming here as part of one of our not a charity thing, but one of the groups here at the University of Florida. I forget which one it is going to pay an entertainer to come here and pay him. I think it's $150,000 or something, and it's for like an hour. And then there's a Q&A, I think, after. He's a rap guy.
Okay.
So, you know, that's it's a student. It's interesting because it's out of the student activity fund. The student activity, if you per credit hour here at the University of Florida, part of your credit hour payment is $19, I think, for your student. It goes into the student activity fund, and then there's the board on the student activity, and they can afford. You know, they pay hundreds of thousands, at least tens of thousands.
I knew it was tens. I didn't realize.
No, this guy is like 100 and some odd thousand. They're asking
better than a concert for that.
Oh yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah,
well,
he's
good for them, man.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, all right. Maybe a quick. Oh, Ted Cruz shooed out of a DC restaurant.
Right.
Unbelievable for supporting a guy who has not been convicted of anything yet.
Yeah.
In Kavanaugh.
Right.
I mean, still under our Constitution, absolutely innocent.
Yeah.
How can you not support that? That's like supporting our Constitution. You have to still at this point, I think, especially from Cruz, who's a senator. He has to support the Constitution.
Right. He took an oath.
Exactly.
They had a little parade downtown here with the I Believe Her people who were out there.
That's fine, except that you have to wait until the facts come through.
Well, the good news, if you want to call it that, is that the owners of this restaurant, apparently this nice place, escorted them back into a secure room.
Yeah.
Called the cops, got them all out of there. He came out and finished his meal.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was not run out like the other one was.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Red Hen people?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what happened. Because I was going to say, I would have stood there and said, listen, Constitution.
No, what he did was, somebody came up to him and accosted him with some fairly low-key something or another, you can't do this or whatever.
Well,
and he said, well, God bless you, God bless you for your opinion.
Yeah.
But then they apparently started a little row, and that's when the management came over and said, come on back here in the back room, we'll take care of this. Called the cops, whatever, got them all out of there, came back, had their food. I'm sure it was
crazy behavior by the public. Okay, let's see. Real quick, the officer in Texas who was arrested, you remember we talked about her, the one who walked into the wrong apartment? Fired now, arrested, everything. I'm about to switch sides on that. I'm about to back this woman because they haven't come forward with anything yet about what her connection is with the victim.
Yeah.
And if she has no connection with the victim, it's entirely plausible that she did mistakenly walk into the wrong apartment.
Well,
now, it doesn't mean that that's excusable behavior because you could. I mean, then you have to wonder if it's negligent homicide sort of a thing, and that's I think what they charge it with, manslaughter, which is accidentally killing somebody.
But here's the question.
Right. Those
doors lock automatically, like your regular hotel doors do when you close.
You said that. Yeah, that can't be. Can't be. Either she was letting. There's more to the story we haven't.
I know that, but what I'm saying is, if she was trying to put her key in it, it wasn't going to work.
Right.
So somehow the door was opened.
Right. Exactly. So
but then when you look at it, you know, where the actual shooting occurred, it was like 8 feet back from the door.
okay.
It wasn't right in the doorway. He didn't stumble out in the doorway and be bloody.
Okay.
So you know, there's some inconsistency.
All she had to do though was open the door, see a figure, draw and shoot. I mean,
I understand that part. I understand that. The question is, how did the door get open?
I'm still with you, and I'm still waiting for facts to come out. I'm just saying, I am not. You know, we came out initially thinking it was a police cover-up. I think that the fact that she's been arrested and fired points now to the concept that they're not covering up anything.
Okay, well,
So
we'll find
out. Real quick, the Greeks are fighting with taxes and tax evasion.
with drones.
Well, no. I mean, they're having problems over there.
Oh yeah.
We'll see if it surfaces back around again. Nothing big there.
Well, you know what I'm saying. You know what they are doing? They're sending drones.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
They're sending drones out over the ships in the Aegean for the tour,
right, to
tour
see
ships,
who's making money.
and they're counting with the drones. They're counting the number of people on there and see if it matches up with the receipts.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it just goes to show you they're having real problems.
I mean, you know, it's amazing to me that these people don't see the similarity between going when you go into your sofa and scrabble around to see what loose change you've got there. I mean, this is. I mean, they're sitting there really. This is something that wasn't a concern before, but now suddenly they're.
Well, I think I would speculate that what's happening is because of the quote unquote extreme austerity and all of the things that are coming down on them, people are probably evading taxes like it's going out of style.
That's true too.
And so it's probably become rampant, and the government is having to fight it, and so it's a what a mess, but what an interesting dynamic that they're in, like sort of an active battlefront at this point with drones, like you said, with drones flying in. Okay, and that's pretty much all I have as well.
Okay, good. Well, we finished up here.
Hey,
a little over an hour.
That's right. And you're not going to believe this, 0% frames dropped.
All right. So,
we had absolutely...
So it was live, actually.
Live. This show was apparently live. We will see. So if that's the case, we might be back online. I might have fixed it somehow. My computer poltergeist, every once in a while fixes stuff.
Hard to believe.
I know. Well, 9 times out of 10, he messes stuff up, he or she. But that other 10th time, all of a sudden, bammo, something will just work.
I don't know why you would say he or she. The poltergeist might be transgender.
It could be. It's possible. I don't know if they breed or anything.
I don't know.
It's probably gender-free.
Gender-free, right?
But we do this twice a week.
Yes.
Wednesdays and Sundays at 4 o'clock. Please come join us, and we will try to get to all
Well, by Sunday we should have a 90% definitive answer on what the Senate has done up to that point.
Kavanaugh. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.